Hello, Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Part 4. So now we're in the Sky Chase Zone. This is by far one of my favorite levels of this game. Tails is actually useful in this level. He flies the plane and it always collects Sonic regardless of where Sonic runs and where Sonic jumps. It's like Sonic and Tails have a psychic connection with each other, so they know exactly where they are. They must be, really close if they can form that kind of connection with each other. And Tails is, of course, actually useful for once. So we're in the sky, there's these robot things, these robot turtles everywhere, turtles riding tortoises or something like that. And there's these bird plane things that come out. They're all obviously Dr. Robotnik's robots, part of his robot army, should easily be destroyed. This is by far the easiest level of the entire game, so it's placed in the best part of the game to put the easiest level. Near the end of the game, this is one of the last levels of this game. There's a much after this, so this game's not going to get much more challenging, but it does. Remember how I kept saying how this game, like the original, doesn't have a lot of platforming parts? Kind of like the platform stuff we saw in the Marble Zone and the Spring Yard Zone. Pretty much most zones in the original Sonic the Hedgehog, and they had a lot of platforming and not so much running very fast of loops and stuff like that. Well, they saved all of it for the end. Yeah, this whole game gave you a false sense of like, oh, well, it's okay, there's no more of that. There's no more of those terrifying things we saw in the first Sonic game, like in the Labyrinth Zone especially, in the Scrap Brain Zone, those things that gave kids nightmares back in the early 90s. But no, they're in this game. They just saved it all for one level at the end, that they took a whole game's worth of platforming and a whole game's worth of PTSD causing platforming stuff, and they threw it all at the very end of this game. This is like a kid's version of performing brain surgery. I felt like I was performing brain surgery. I used to play this as a kid. It's like you have to make careful, precise movements and precise motions, and if you're off by a little bit, you get killed. That's like when they went to service the Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble Space Telescope is just, where you have to work on it, and there's the circuit boards that are like sharp as razors. If you get cut, you're dead, or if you do one wrong thing, you're dead. They should make a game like that. That'd make a perfect thing. No, wait, actually, there is a game like that. It's called Space Ace, where you're constantly being chased by this monster thing. You have to constantly run through the level or something like that and dodge stuff. I remember watching Stan Birdman review that game a long time ago. The SNES version, it's complete total crap. It's like if you're off by just a little bit, you get killed. There's no margin of error at all. There's no room for anything there. And there's this metal pull thing. This used to scare me while I was a kid. I always assumed that you have to press the up button on the Genesis D-pad controller to grab onto that pull thing. I don't know if you actually have to press up or not, but I don't want to test that, so I never test that. Always press up. It's easy to do on the circular D-pad, the Genesis controller, but it's much harder to do on this computer keyboard. So I'm using a keyboard to play this game, because it's still all I have. And my D-pad is not well equipped for games like these, so we're just carefully walking through here. I don't want to run fast. There's Scratch from that Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. It looks like Scratch. I remember there's one of the main characters is Scratch. He looks like a chicken or something like that. He's a Grounder. Grounder was an enemy in the first game and an enemy in this game too. And then there was Coconuts as a character from the show too. And we saw him as an enemy in the Emerald Hill Zone in this game. Well, yeah, this game or later used in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I think this game had the most influence on Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, simply because it would have been the most recent Sonic game at the time, the most relevant to the time. It was a game a lot of people owned. They actually bundled this game with the original Sega Genesis, the same with the original Sonic the Hedgehog as well, too. There actually was a point in time where they bundled both of these games in Genesis. You buy a Genesis, you get Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. That's a lot of fun to be had right there, especially in 1992 when they were doing this. So most kids probably owned Sonic the Hedgehog, and that's what they knew Sonic from. And not as many people owned a Sega CD. A lot of those kids were able to play Sonic CD. When I got a Genesis in 2009, I actually wanted to get a Sega CD of it. And I always put on a wish list for future Christmases and things like that. Like, yeah, I'm definitely getting a Sega CD. But I eventually gave up on it. It's not worth getting a Sega CD. It's like a freaking electrical octopus setting up one of those things. And then once you do get set up, there's very few good games on the Sega CD as well too, and you have to plug it in somewhere. And the plugs are really large and they're vertical as well too. And most power bars or surge protectors don't really allow like the kind of plugging in. It's really a big abyssal mess. I'm glad I never owned a Sega CD. To make matters worse, I hear a lot of games in that system are highly prone to laser rot or disc rot, as some people would call it, or the discs biodegrade over time so they don't work anymore. Yeah, apparently one guy can't play Sonic CD anymore because that's exactly what happened. to his copy of the game. The only ever two good, the only ever few, well, no, I think it's more than two, but the only ever few good games I know of on Sega CD were Final Fight CD and Star Wars Chess and Sylphid, suppose. I never still got to play Sylphid. I never found a working ISO image for Sylphid, but I heard it was one of the best games in the Sega CD, and it's one of the only Sega CD games worth playing. Some people say it's worth buying a Sega CD just for Sylphid. Maybe if one was dirt cheap, it might be worth it, but I never found one for dirt cheap that was completely, fully well-equipped with everything you need to play it with. So yeah, I never really thought it was worth it to buy a Sega CD. Same with Sega 32X as well, too. I think the same with that as well, too. And so the only real big play the Sega CD games nowadays is really through emulation, because the discs, rot away over time. And like what happened to a lot of HD DVD discs made by Warner Brothers, they rot away over time. Discs biodegrade too, just like VHS tapes biodegrade over time. It's only a matter of time before they all disappear, and then more generations of kids are gonna know what discs are, or anything like that. Sega CD also could play music CDs, which apparently was a big novelty thing at the time. That's what the Philips CDI stressed itself as, oh, it's an entertainment system, not a gaming system. A lot of the stuff on there was like full motion stuff, like the Sega CD. A lot of those Sega CD games actually were like motion games, or games that had like, how do I say it? It was like actual live footage, like live recorded footage, and it would be like some sort of game where you're like interacting with a movie, kind of like watching a movie and you're shooting stuff at the screen or something like that. Heck, there's one Power Rangers game on that Sega CD. It's technically not even a game at all. It's all you do is you just sit there and it tells you to press buttons and you're watching an episode of the show. It doesn't matter if you hit the button on time or not. It still plays out exactly the same. So it's not even really a game at all then. It's more just watching a TV show. It's really more just watching a TV show then that's interactive, and every now and then you press a button and not even anything happens. So it's really just like a DVD, almost like an early version of what a DVD was. Of course, this is in the early 90s where anyone had DVDs. So catching a ride to space, somehow Sonic on the outside of the rocket can survive getting sent far up into the atmosphere, where it would be freezing cold, but somehow Sonic can survive the ice. Well, there weren't any ice levels in these games, but I know there was an ice level in the third game. Maybe Sonic's body could just survive extreme icy temperatures, being so high up in the atmosphere. He's probably in the stratosphere or something like that from the looks of it. So here's the absolute last level of this game, where we're gonna fight the last two bosses. Here's a fake Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm pretty sure this fake Sonic appeared in an episode of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog when he was pseudo-Sonic and he committed crimes all over the city, and me and Sonic got blamed for them. But it was being controlled by some guy that said his parents were captured by Robotnik. You see, Robotnik is watching us as we fight this fake Sonic the Hedgehog. This is a lot like the original Jumping Flash. The last two stages of this game, you fight a boss before the final boss, and there's people watching you, and the final boss is a copy of yourself, like some evil twin robot copy thing of yourself. So now we can take on the absolute final boss. This is the only boss in this game that takes more than 8 hits to destroy. It takes 12 hits. And look at that. Robotnik is lazy. He doesn't want to go and fight Sonic. He's too obese from all the times he eats at McDonald's. So instead, he's just going to sit back and let this robot thing do his work. It's probably controlling it. That's probably why it's so slow. This robot is so slow and gimpy. You probably just wanted to make it just like himself. It looks like himself. The final boss in the original Sonic the Hedgehog looked like the villain. Behind it, Bear and Aloha. And this boss looks like Robotnik. And he's slow like Robotnik because he's very fat probably and weak, and he's not very smart. And this boss perfectly reflects on that. The strategy I'm using right now I actually developed this strategy a long time ago when I had to play as Knuckles, because as I said before, Knuckles isn't as fast as Sonic in this game, and Knuckles can't jump as high as Sonic in this game either. It's actually proved to be very hazardous for my ending plan, because normally what I would do is I wait for Robotnik to jump down, do that thing until he jumps, and once he jumps, I just jump over and hit him or something. No, sorry, I didn't do that. That's what I'm doing now. But before, how it would work is I'd get him on one side of the screen, then I'd run up to him really fast, and I'd jump and hit him. That plan works with Sonic. But it doesn't work with Knuckles, because Knuckles can't jump as high, so I had to come up with a different plan. I saw a YouTube video, I think someone glided into him when he was jumping and shooting himself out, shooting his body out like that. And that plan actually works with Sonic as well too, and I thought it was such a good idea, way better than anything I could have thought of myself. So I just decided to do it for both Sonic and Knuckles, so I don't have to write a different strategy when I play as Knuckles. Then again, I rarely ever play this game as Knuckles. It's very rare. I only did it a few times way back in the day, and I never did it against this. I don't know, this game's more, it was made more for Sonic. And my Sonic and Knuckles cartridge can be quite troublesome sometimes. I sometimes think the reason why Sonic 3 had a save feature is when Sonic 3 is placed into Sonic and Knuckles, it becomes a whole new game called Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And it's actually like a whole game of combined Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, like a combined game. Playing at Sonic and Knuckles is really just an expansion of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So it serves as like a way to save for the whole game. So that's actually just a pretty long game. There's a lot of Chaos Emeralds to get and stuff like that. There's a lot to do in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It was a very ambitious project for the time. So is this game. I actually think this game is better simply because it's more simpler, it's more straightforward. I like the music a lot more. There's more levels in this game. There's more stuff overall. Sonic 2 is by far the pinnacle of what Sonic is. That's why I think this is the best Sonic game there ever is. It's for a very simplistic reason, because it's a very simplistic game, simplistic control scheme that works really well with the simplistic 3-button Sega Genesis controller, which I still think is one of the best controllers ever made. One guy back in 2010 that I watched on YouTube ranted about saying it's like one of the worst things ever. Why would you make a controller like this? Why can't you just put 4 buttons on it like what the SNES does and have it arranged like that? Yeah, but the SNES is the first system to do something like that. There was no and the Sega Genesis came out before the SNES. I didn't know about stuff like that. The reason why the 6-button controller was arranged the way it was, because they were trying to emulate an arcade machine, like a Street Fighter 2 arcade machine. That's the buttons were arranged on that thing. They're arranged in that order. They were trying to emulate that, but on a controller, they didn't know about SNES or how successful that would be, because now a lot of systems copied that button layout, most notably the PlayStation, even the Dreamcast and Xbox. This is before any of that, so his complaint there was kind of invalid. This is the ending of the game. Tails and a bunch of animals are watching the Death Egg in space explode. That thing where Justin was a Death Egg. Sonic destroyed it, and now Tails is going to go and fly up there. A bunch of birds around. If you love to have birds around a plane, right? Birds love flying next to planes, right? So he's going to fly up there if the bird's coming with him, and they're going to collect Sonic as he's falling from space. If it exploded, you think Sonic would be dead, or if Sonic jumped from that high, you think he would just burn up on re-entry or something like that? Or he would just, fall to his death instantly and there'd be no chance of Tails collecting him. But Tails, they clearly have some sort of psychic connection. So I guess it makes sense. There's a lot of birds flying around and they're flying very close to the propellers because, birds love propellers. They love them. They love flying near them all the time. So we're flying through the sky right now. There's not as many clouds right now as there was earlier. So Tails is going to try to show off his skills, and Sonic's going to jump in the air. This is the same as regardless if you get all the emeralds or not. So this is going to show us the credits. It's not going to show a montage of scenes from the game like what it did in the first game, but this time around it's going to get simply a medley of all the music used in this game, including the music used in the 2-player mode in this game. There's a 2-player mode in this game. But all you do is race. It's just Sonic versus Tails and racing. Another 2-player thing you do, I think you could make it like a 2-player co-op thing where the main one player plays as Sonic and the other player plays as Tails, and you could run, and you could run through a level or something, or run through levels, and so you could assist Sonic, take control of Tails. Multiplayer wasn't the best, and again, most games in this era didn't really have the best multiplayer, the best simultaneous multiplayer, or the best stuff. I mean, when people think of good party games, most people don't go to the Sega Genesis and they want good party games. I mean, I went to the Genesis at my birthday party sometimes. I would take it out and we would all play stuff, but I'd only do that because I'm supposed to be, the main subject of the party. So of course the kids are gonna want to, play whatever I'm interested in playing, and I want to play Genesis, because Genesis is, the greatest systems ever, and I want more people to know about how great the Genesis was. Just going through the credits right now, the credits of all the people who worked on this game. I think these credits are actually longer than the credits were from the first game. Maybe more people got credited this time around. I know these credits are pretty good. I'll go through all the music in this game. This game really does have an awesome soundtrack. Music composer, look, he gets his own name in the credits. It's good they acknowledge him for that. They always So yeah, this is Sonic 2 overall. This game is, like I said, I keep saying it, this game is a masterpiece. It has awesome music, it has awesome everything, pretty much. The action is really good, controls well, this game's obedient, like any good game would be. It's obedient, it has the story. I don't really care much for story. I never really rate games based on story, but this game does have a decent enough story for what it is. Casino Night Zone is by far one of the greatest zones in the game because of all the pinball stuff. Again, that could be a whole separate game on its own, which it kind of is in Sonic Spinball. This game has a lot of stuff that could be its own game. Even the bonus stages, the gyrus-like bonus stages, could be like their own bonus, their own kind of game itself. A whole Sonic game based on bonus stages. Yeah, so this is, like I keep saying, this is a really great game overall, and I recommend this for anyone that has a Sega Genesis, or just wants to get an emulator and play something on the Genesis that best demonstrates what it is. This is by far the best game to play, if you really want to know what the Genesis was capable of. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, just a simple logo as that, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.